Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you are well. The first question I'm going to ask you all is, can you hear any noise in the background? Because I've got an air conditioning unit running in here. So I'm going to stop talking and just let me know if you can hear anything. I don't know if the noise is there or not. I'm just intrigued. I'm going to turn it off for the live stream. No noise. Oh, cool. That's cool. So I can actually leave it running. I'm going to turn it off because I've got a remote controller. And it's quite distracting for me as well. But cool. It's good to know if it does get too hot, I can power it up. So, hello. I hope you are all safe and well. Yes, it's Sunday, and tonight we're going to be making friends and influencing people with some of the biggest brands in FPV. Tonight we're going to talk about Foxeer intentionally selling, and the reason I say intentionally, apparently they were told, so apparently this is intentional, that the receivers that they're selling have a fault. We're also going to talk about the pettiness of Matek and their reply with regards to Express ELRS receivers that they didn't send to the developers. And I'm going to talk a bit about the process around that as well. We will talk a little bit about 3.4 for those who haven't seen. There's a video that I put out yesterday. The amazing updates in 3.4 really is a big one. And I'm really pleased to see where things are going. And that's really made a difference, in my opinion, for the ease of use for new users moving into Express ELRS. We're going to touch on DJI Avata 2 because there's something that you may not know. And there will be a dedicated video on this. In fact, there are two videos coming because I have completed the latency testing on the Avata 2 compared to the Avata 1 and 03. Avata 1 and 03 were basically the same. But I've compared the latency testing now compared to those. That will be coming out in a separate video this week. But I am going to give you a little hint about that. And that is all of this noise that people were going and DJI saying, we've reduced the latency. I'll tell you now, I'm seeing no change in latency on the Avata 2 compared to the Avata 1. In fact, actually, I'm seeing a little bit higher. However, I think that's run-to-run variance. I wouldn't actually class it as higher. What I would say is the latency is basically the same as 03 Avata 1, is what I'm going to say. And I wouldn't read into the specs around that, what it says on the website, too much. What we also don't know is how DJI measure it. But what is clear is that it isn't as low as the original FPV system. But we will talk about that. We'll talk about ToolKitRC because I keep hearing problems with their hardware, and one of the users on my Discord has a brand new charger that literally blew up on day one. So we're going to talk a bit about them. And we'll answer any questions and anything else you have along the way too. Now, I hope you've all had a fantastic week. It has been a long one in the sense of it's been all over the place with weather. Today was incredible here in the UK. I actually went to the beach today. I didn't fly. I went to the beach. It has been amazing over here today. I've been sort of clearing some things up in the background and sort of tidying things down. And just, I'm in a good position right now where I got one thing left to do and I finished all reviews. And that's nice. And there is some stuff coming this week, I think, but nothing fantastic. There's also a lot of products coming out that I'm not involved with, that I haven't asked to be involved with. So segments like you're going to have here on the live stream today is probably the reason for it. And yeah, it's been an interesting one. Now, something else that is quite interesting that I'm going to share with you. Tonight, I've ordered something, and this is going to be an upcoming video, actually, while we let the people roll in. I've ordered a set of faulty Avatar HD goggles. Now, if I just hop to the desktop, one of the guys on my Discord highlighted this earlier, and HobbyRC in the UK was selling a set of Dominator Avatar HD goggles, the Fat Shark ones, customer return. And what it says is as follows. Customer return, sold as spares only, problem with range receiving signals, no returns. Now, I thought this would make a fantastic video. So I've bought them. £180, which is okay, I think, for a set of them. We'll have to figure out what we do with them. If we get them working, we'll figure out what we do with them from there. But what we are going to be doing is a full video on this when it comes in. We're going to see how it is. And I think it'll be a very interesting one to see what's wrong with them and if we can repair them. And if we can't, we've blown 180 quid. But it will be an interesting video nonetheless. They were selling them for not much more than that brand new recently. They were a bit more than that. It was over £300. It was 380, 390. 371 was the, they're saying your old price, 371. That was the discounted price. So you're getting a chunk off, basically half price. So I think it'll make an interesting video. You know, is this user error? Has the user fiddled with them? Have they been checked by the shop? Is it just a loose UFL? Who knows? Only you will find out, and I will find out when we get the goggles. But I'm looking forward to doing that. Something a little bit different. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It will definitely be interesting to see what the score is. Now, I'm just waiting for my cup of tea to arrive. I'm going to pop my glass of squash to the side a second out the way before I knock it off, before we get into tonight's first thing. Now, the first subject tonight is going to be Express LRS 3.4, and I'm going to do this first because it will lead very nicely into Subject 2 and Subject 3. And Express LRS 3.4 has released. If you haven't seen, I do have a dedicated video on it. What's really important in this is if you're using PWM receivers, you should update these. It's not so important if they're ESP32 based, but if they're 8285 based PWM receivers, you should actually now do this because there is a critical bug. But the real big one here is the better binding experience and Gemini X. And the better binding experience is fantastic. I'll be honest, they've done a great job. I have seen one thing that sort of unsettled me a little bit on what they're hoping to do in HDX. They're going to be releasing, there's a pull request in HDZero for adding the bind button, but they're also going to add the unbind button there as well. Ooh, my cup of tea's arrived. 1 second. Oh, that's hot. The plan is for there to be a bind and unbind button in HDZero directly, which is good. And what the unbind means, you will be able to just hit the button whilst connected to the receiver and it will unbind. The only concern is, as I was reading the pull request, if you did that in flight, you would unbind your receiver in flight, but you shouldn't be in that menu in flight anyway. So don't worry about that. That's the bit that did unsettle me a little bit. I'm not sure I would put unbind in that screen. I would leave that buried in the Express ELRS lure, personally. But what is going to be absolutely fantastic is you're going to have a bind button in HDZero, a bind button in Betaflight, and it's game over. Everyone's happy. It doesn't get much better than that. And look, the other real big one here is Gemini Crossband. And for those who don't know what Gemini Crossband is, obviously this is a Gemini module, this one here, but it is dual transmit on 2.4 gigs. Gemini Crossband is dual transmit, one on 900, one on 2.4. Basically the same as FreeSky Tandem or TD mode. So it does one and the other. And this is fantastic to see. I am really looking forward to radios with this built in, because we're at the stage now where I am really hoping for dual modules for like the TX16S. I don't really so much care about the TX16S. It's not a radio I particularly warm to. It's a little bit large. The Boxer, I would love there to be a dual module for the Boxer. 900 2.4, all systems covered, happy days, ready to go. But the real cool thing is they've not only added Crossband Gemini X, you've now got a 250 hertz mode in 900 megs. You've got a full 200 hertz mode, and you've now got the 150 and X100. Not on 433. It is 900 2.4. Well, sub-gigahertz. So technically it could do 433, I guess. I don't know if there's an Express ELRS dev here. Technically it could do... Sub-gigahertz is the term they use. Does it constantly switch? It is constantly transmitting on both, and the receiver is deciding which packet of data to send out to the receiver. So which packet of data to use. So it's constantly transmitting on both, and then it's choosing which frame of data to use. Duncan Woodby just said, if Radio Master released a dual mode internal Express ELRS module, I would immediately spend some money on one. Yeah, that would be... maybe it would be nice if we could use internal 2.4 and external 900 megs in the Boxers at the same time. That is incredibly interesting. Not thought of that before. Why does it not show 3.4 as a version? It does. Why, though? What's the actual point? Well, the actual point is you've got the best of both worlds in some ways. Okay, what you don't have with Gemini today is the ultimate best of both worlds, which is, say, F1000 in 2.4 and 100 hertz in 900 megs. What you do, though, have is a system that will switch between the two. So in environments where there is unknown amounts of interference, you're not going to have a problem. If you're around Wi-Fi, it'll just take the 900 meg signals. If you're not around Wi-Fi, it'll use the 2.4 until you go out a range of 2.4, then it will use the 900. It does give you the best of both world options. And that is the good thing. The only thing you can't do today is have separate rates across the dual transmission. That's the only thing you can't do. But look, it is fantastic to see. It's brilliant to see it out. I'm really pleased. Now, I do want to say, if you didn't see the video, I do have a link in there to the Open Collective page for Express LRS. I strongly suggest you support it. They do have a page where you can donate to them if you haven't seen it. You can make a one-off donation, a regular competition. It is entirely up to you. But please do consider supporting them, because they are a fantastic project, and the guys over there have done incredible work. You can also use Gemini X TX module to control your existing 900 meg receivers in your long range winch, as well as existing 2.4 cords. Yes. So for people who don't really assume this, Gemini X isn't you must have dual at once. So what Gemini X will be is you can use 900, you can use 2.4, or you can use Gemini X. It's your choice. This is why I was saying it would be amazing to get these modules into the radio, because you're just sorted. You can choose the 900, you can choose the 2.4, you can choose Gemini X. Just because you buy a Gemini X transmitter, that probably will release in the future. And guess, look, someone's going to make one. I don't know anything about them today. I don't have one. I've not been told about one. But let's be open with ourselves. Someone is going to make one. And when they do, that is going to be the perfect module. 1 watt dual transmission Gemini X modules. Yes, please. That's the that is the go-to. Now, one of the reasons Express LRS has been so successful in the last couple of years, especially in recent times, is the developers have now taken quite a hard stance on hardware. And what I mean by that is this. Anyone can make hardware for Express LRS, okay? It's open source. You can go and make the hardware based on standard designs and release it. You can fork the software. However, to have proper support for Express LRS with the dev team, they've now in recent times put some requirements in place, and that is as follows. The developers require that you send them your hardware before you release it for them to make sure it is working as expected. Now, whilst you don't have to do this as a manufacturer, if you do this, the benefit is you can put your target, or your target, sorry, will be put into the Express LRS configurator, the web configurator, and the PC configurator. Now, you don't have to do this. It isn't forced, but if you want your target shown in the official repos, in the official configurator, you need to provide the dev team a sample of your hardware. They will check it to make sure it is working correctly. They will provide you free of charge feedback on that hardware if there's anything they think should be better, improved, or isn't right. And they will support you to put out the best possible product for the project. And what you get from that is inclusion into the configurator, the web UI, and official Express LRS support. Now, sometimes, obviously, hardware is found to have issues. And a post that was recently put up by the Express LRS dev team, which is this one here, is about Foxeer. And Jay put up a post saying, Foxeer is knowingly selling faulty receivers. And the basics of this is as follows. They sent a sample of receivers to the Express LRS dev team. And let me just pop this up for you to see. There we go. We have this post from Jay, and it says, Foxeer is knowingly selling faulty receivers. And the basic story here is they sent receivers. They were not working as expected in the sense of the telemetry output from the receivers should have been 50 milliwatt, and instead it was 10. They provided that feedback to Foxeer. They heard nothing. Next minute, these receivers are being sold on the open market. They went and bought one and tested it off the shelf, and lo and behold, it has the same issue. So today, Foxeer, whilst initially reached out to the Express LRS dev team to get their hardware checked, ignored the feedback that they were given by the ExpressLRS dev team and continued to send faulty hardware out to be sold. Now, this is frankly shit, and this is a behavior that shouldn't be supported. These are the True Diversity 868-900, which they did test. And look, this is an example of why the dev team wants to see the hardware first, but secondly, why it is so important that they do to make sure it is working as expected. So today, all I can say is Foxeer are knowingly selling, based on information that has been provided, receivers that are faulty. My opinion is you just don't buy their gear. End of. When a manufacturer behaves like this, just don't do it. Don't. And that, look, I'm going to be open with this. Don't buy anything. End of. Until they change their ways, until they change their behavior, don't give them your money. That's it. They're not a brand I've ever worked with, and that wouldn't change anything for me. But it wouldn't matter if I had worked with them. This is pretty shitty practices, and knowingly selling out dodgy hardware is just unacceptable. There's no in between. Now, I just want to highlight a few comments. So Wes said just now, just to make sure, on that hardware that I was saying there, that service is free. The developers do not charge for checking the hardware. The only thing they do require is you send enough samples for the whole dev team. Not one, not two. I think it's about 10 that they ask for, something like that. They want 10 hardware samples to make sure that they have enough to make sure that there's hardware to hardware variants, and make sure that there's enough for each dev. Now, Wes has also said, Foxeer are sending replacements to one of our local FPV resellers. Place your bets on what they're sending. We haven't seen anything new to test since the last failed hardware. So there's nothing to say that they fixed the hardware. But this is a classic example of why it is so important the dev team does what it does. And this is why they ask for the hardware. They want to check it. They will give you advice for free, and they will support you. And here's me being open and honest. I know one of the biggest brands that works with the ExpressLRS dev team is Radio Master. And look, they're not perfect. They have had some issues in recent times. We had that transmitter with the incorrect power connector setup. But overall, with an ExpressLRS side of things, everything has been fine. And this is why you need the devs to be checking it over. So, my stance on Foxeer is, if they're doing this intentionally, then they don't deserve your money. Don't go near them. That's it. End of for me. Now, this nicely leads us onto a second brand that is also behaving frankly badly in the ExpressLRS world, and that is Matek. Now, this relates to one of their ExpressLRS receivers, which is the Matek ELRS 2.4 gig PWM receiver, which is the R24P6. Now, this is an ESP8285 based PWM receiver. It was actually one of the early ones, I believe, that came up with doing PWM via the ESP8285. And they've written something, frankly, a little bit jabby on their website. And the basics of this is, right, let me just get this up. And frankly, this is petty. So they did send, I believe, one or two of these receivers to the ExpressLRS dev team, but they didn't send enough for all of the devs. They stuck in the pull request and then basically just started selling the receivers. As there wasn't enough receivers sent for testing, it never got full support in the ExpressLRS configurator, and in fact, they pulled it out. What's a bit shitty about this, though, is this, right? Let me just show you this comment that they've written in here. A piece of history. The R24-P6 was the first ESP8285 6x PWM based receiver based on generic ESP8285 PWM target, etc., etc. Okay. And launched in June of 22. We sent samples to 2 of the devs for target verification after trial production. 2. Not the 10 that was requested. 2. They even adjusted the target configs according to our voltage sent hardware. The PR can prove it, which they're pointing to that PR. Okay. Doesn't matter. We just thought unified target was okay. No need to add a coat target, okay, with just the manufacturer and SKU name. But a year after production and releasing, thousands of users have been using it and tested it in flight. Someone said no one else got hardware for testing. Now, they're actually having a jab at the ExpressLRS dev team here, because when you go into the pull requests, okay, basically, they sent 2 for testing. The dev team didn't get any more, so they pulled it out of the configurator because they're not putting the custom, or they pulled it out the dev tree because they're not getting their custom because they didn't get the full support for the hardware. Captain Bride did reach out to Matek, and they just responded as follows. Thanks for contacting us. The product has been in market for 1 year. We don't think it's necessary to add a specific cloak for each product if there's a generic target for it. So what they've decided is that they don't think ExpressLRS should give them a target, so they're not going to send more hardware. Well, look, that's fine, but why the pissy jab on your website? So you clearly care that there isn't an official target, and you've put this little bit of a dig in there at the ExpressLRS dev team, yet you chose not to send hardware to the devs. So again, another brand that is choosing to not behave well with the developers that are offering a free service to check their hardware to make sure it works properly. Matek couldn't afford the 8 additional receivers that they would have needed to send to make sure that they got themselves in the configurator properly and got themselves supported properly within the community. So that just tells you how much Matek care about ExpressLRS, because they don't really want to bother putting proper targets in. So again, another brand that you should consider if you want to give your money, because they clearly care a lot about making sure that the hardware works properly. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Just ridiculous. A bit more back history. Matek are still pissy about the R24D that had XO issues with the capacitors. Yes, it was largely the Matek receivers that had problems. We told them the caps were causing the issue. They refused to remove them. Why does 3.4 show rev of KC-domain in the web UI? I don't know what that means. I don't know if one of the devs can say. And Wes now says now they're choosing to ignore them. Okay, so here's another one. We have Foxeer, who are ignoring the dev team, and Matek ignoring the dev team. If a brand ignores the development team of an open source project, don't buy from them based on that project. Don't buy their hardware. Don't buy their receivers. Don't buy their transmitters. Tell them no. Because if they're not going to support the developers, then fuck them. It's really that simple. If they're not willing to supply 10 pieces of hardware and work with a development team that will provide a free of charge service to make sure that the product you're selling works properly with the community, then fuck them. Simple as that. Here's the thing. This is just unacceptable. And what annoys me more about this is intentional. Completely intentional. Doesn't that take away the reputable part of the business if they're screwing over good people? Yes. It does. So now, I'll be honest. My opinion is don't buy a Matek flight controller. Speedy B. Right? These guys make a lot of Express ELRS hardware. Don't buy it. It's not proper. It's not been checked properly. All of the flight controllers, Speedy B have equivalents. They're cheaper. Go buy Speedy B. Don't do it. Look, they are hugely supported by iNav, right? We know there's a lot of closeness between iNav and Matek, but fuck 'em. If they're not going to play ball, then buy a brand that does. I know Speedy B does work with the Express ELRS dev team. Radio Master works with the dev team. All the things. It just don't buy it. It's as simple as that. If a company that makes this stuff doesn't want to support the developers of the open source project, then why should anyone buy from them? It's just complete and BS. It really, really is. So, there we go. Foxeer and Matek. You've made the list of Mads Tech says don't buy. Congrats. You've made it up there with the likes of DJI that I have said that about in the past. Look, okay, so someone said, is there a list of certified stuff? Here's a real simple way. If it is in the Express ELRS configurator, it has been checked. It's that simple. If it is in the Express ELRS configurator, it's been checked over, is the general term, especially with new stuff. That's the quickest way to tell today. It's really crazy, isn't it? You know, brands that, you know, look, they're getting the software for free as it is. You know, look, I love open source, okay? I really love open source. But it also does cause problems. And I don't mean Express ELRS, and I don't mean Betaflight specifically, iNav. But this week, I'm putting out my review. Sorry, I thought I'd black on my hands there when I was working on something. This week, I'm putting out my review of the FreeSky X18S. And I'll be honest, and I know I'm going to get a load of shit for this. I like the radio a lot. I actually like what FreeSky have done. I'm stepping away from the history with regards to this, okay, a second. So I'm not talking about all of the nonsense. Where they're at today is actually quite a good place with regards to that radio and the receivers and stuff like that, okay? And I do get comments from people saying, look, you know, oh yeah, but it's more expensive. What you've also got to take into account is this. When a closed source company is doing their own software, that's really expensive, right? Now, there is no question a huge part of FPV is getting away with murder on free software development. So flight controllers, Betaflight and iNav and ArduPilot are paying for the development. They're not paying, but they're paying. They are... You know, they're getting the software for free. They push their hardware out the door, and it's left then largely to the open source projects to fix the issue. Express ELRS is the same. All of these companies, right, are getting their hardware made themselves with free software. They don't even need a developer. It's the same with radios, you know, and they're all at it. Radio Master, Jumper, all of these radios are based on OpenTX, EdgeTX. All EdgeTX now, but I should say both. Okay? The least these companies could do is support the development teams, because they're getting away with absolute murder now. They're not paying for software. And when you start talking about the price of other stuff, at times open source can be damaging for manufacturers who go the full route, hardware and software. You know, it can be damaging for them. And what's actually quite interesting, and I did find this interesting, and look, the review of the X18S will probably be tomorrow. It's a really good radio. I know a lot of people will hate FreeSky. I get it. I know why. I actually think where they're at today is quite a good place from a brand and the product. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm just going to turn that aircon back on because I'm cooking. What do I do with the remote? Aha. It is absolutely cooking in here again. But you got to take into account what is interesting is price, because that radio, and if I just show you something, and this will be before we move on to the next subject, and I thought this is quite interesting when I looked at it. So, if we just go to the desktop, the X18X Tandem, right, is £379. Okay, so everyone thinks that is a huge amount of money for a radio. It is a lot of money for a radio. However, don't get baited into thinking everything is apples for apples, okay? This radio, full color touchscreen, full custom OS, full whole CNC gimbals, fully tripped out. $379. Now, a basic TX16S Mark II is $249. But don't be confused. Drop it into the AG01 whole gimbal version, the Max. It's the same money. It's actually the same money. And I'll say this. I think this is a very good radio. But in my opinion, it is not of the same quality as this. I'll be honest with you. So, what we're all used to in FPV is the low end. We're used to the basic stuff. We're used to seeing pricing on things like, oh, TX16S Mark II, £199. That's nice and cheap. I'll get myself one of them. But don't fall down the trap of thinking, you know, it's all apples for apples, because it isn't. You've got to make sure when you're comparing them that they are the same. And look, Radio Master, a phenomenal brand. I think Radio Master is one of... I'd actually go as far as to say I think Radio Master might be the best brand in FPV today. I actually think Radio Master could be the very best brand in FPV today. Do you know what I would love Radio Master to do? And they have started. They have just released a new flight controller for helis. I've not really covered this because it's not my world. Oh, bugger, I missed the carousel with it. There we go back. There we go. They've just released their Nexus flight controller for helicopters. I would love to see Radio Master do a stack, an all-in-one flight controller for FPV. I think they are a brand. Look, they're a brand we know. They're a brand we can trust. I'd love to see them put that hardware chops into a flight controller. It's not going to be dramatic. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to have stuff we wouldn't have. But I think they would be a great brand to have making flight controllers. Genuinely do. I honestly, there are not many brands in FPV that I can think of who are... I don't know if anyone can think of any others that are outstanding. Look, Radio Master is one of the best today. Without doubt. One of the best today. You look at the range of products now, it's crazy as well. Just look at all the good products they're making. It is crazy. Just look at all of this good stuff. MCK Mark II is off its head. There's a lot of good products there now. There really is. Did I miss the biscuit? I haven't had a biscuit yet. No. So, that really is the rinsing of Matek and Foxeer. Shame, because I do think Foxeer make good antennas, apparently. The lollipops are meant to be very, very good, but, you know. However, have they not been accused of ripping them off from TrueRC? Am I not right or wrong? Or some antennas being ripped off from TrueRC? Although I think ripping off antennas is a complicated subject at the best of times. I think the problem with antennas is the second you make something new and innovative, everyone else is going to copy it. The real key to antennas isn't actually the manufacturing, it's the QA testing. Sorry, it's not the manufacturing. The real key to antennas is great manufacturing, which gives you stable QA, which allows you to test it afterwards. It is product variance that kills or lives an antenna side of things. It's great making a single antenna that is amazing. You need to be able to bang them out on a production line that they're all equally behaving the same and then prove that. And I know TrueRC test every single one of their antennas. And that's probably the biggest difference between the likes of TrueRC and others is, you know, you got to feel for TrueRC. And I have been someone who has complained a number of times about the pricing of some of TrueRC's antennas. I'm as guilty as anyone of it for some PCB and wire. But you're paying for development. You're paying for constant QA and knowledge is what you're paying for. And Hugo's a great guy. He put actually a blog of mine up on the TrueRC blog. I don't know about Lumineer. Look, I know TrueRC tests. I know TrueRC tests. I don't know about Lumineer. But yeah, Lumineer is powered by TrueRC. So, look, testing in itself is important. Does every antenna need to be tested? I'm not so sure about that. VAS and TrueRC, yeah, VAS makes some lovely antennas. Again, you know, smaller volume, great manufactured. So, yeah, interesting. Hi, Ian, did you test the Moonlight recording board? No, I've not got one. I've not really felt the need to order it. I don't know how interested people are in it. I've not seen yet what you have to do on that to get it to work. Cut open a broken Axis 2 and it said TrueRC. Not surprised. TBS Trappy specifically to do with Crossfire. Let me just read this, Cliff. Is there talk of product updates and release from Trappy? I've not heard anything about from TBS. I so wish they pushed some stuff out. My last two builds are Speedy B and then I really like this stuff. Yeah, I'd like to see TBS do more. We all still have a bay. Batch testing can work when you manufacture with machines that produce multiples at a time. Once you catch one, you go back and test all. Yes, you know, it's a complicated how far do you have to go is the question. You know, do you test every antenna? Do you just pull one from a batch? You know. It's a complicated one. Right, if you've got any questions, please do put it in the chat before we move on to the next subject. please do let me know if there's anything. I'm just going to get these windows in place. My version of it shows KO domain instead of 3.4. Are you using the web configurator? People keep talking about this. The web. My version of Aurora 1948. Were you the same person asking the questions above? Because one of the developers replied to you if it was. Let me just have a look. Yeah, Raw. One of the developers has replied to you further up in the chat. He's told you to clear the cache of your browser, I believe Wes said. If not, on the KC domain thing, clear your configuration caches so that it downloads the 3.4.0 build. One of the devs fucked up yesterday and overwrote the release build with his own branch for a few hours. So he is saying, clear the cache. Name and shame him, Wes. Who was it? Who was it? Which dev was it? I want to name him. I wasn't going to talk about this, Killing Fields. But I have spoke about it. Okay. I'm going to quickly... There is one or more people who seem to have a problem with the outcome of Bot Grinder's GoFundMe. I can't remember what he did. The money he requested for buying a flying site. Okay? These people are not backers. These people are sitting on the sidelines. They didn't support the project. They didn't give any money. They didn't have any involvement, yet they're going round crap spreading that he's lied and that he hasn't done what he said. Now, I'm going to keep this really simple. If you are like me, that you didn't give any money, because I didn't, I let it just run through. That isn't because I don't like bot, I do, but I just didn't feel it was something I wanted to donate to. If you didn't donate, you don't get to have an opinion on the outcome. The only people who have any rights to have any questions in this are people who gave money. If you didn't give money, frankly, keep your nose out. Now, if you are someone who gave money and you're unhappy with the outcome, you have the option of contacting BotGrinder. You have the option of starting a Discord, a Facebook group. If one or more people who donated are not happy, then get together, talk to BotGrinder, and if you don't get a satisfactory outcome, then you, as donators, have the right to publicly complain. But only the people who donated have the right to complain. Bystanders, people sitting on the side, have no right to be involved. I have seen no complaints from anyone who has donated. I've seen no complaints that he has done anything other than what he said he was going to do. There is a bunch of people crap steering for no good reason. Now, as a content creator, as I have done on the channel tonight, if a brand, a person, a company, or a creator did something to deceive, mislead, or rip off the FPV community, I will highlight it on this channel, and I promise you others will as well. I have not seen anything remotely like that. So the reality is here, there is nothing to talk about. Yet there is one or two people who want to walk around the internet shit-steering for no good reason. It's really simple. If you didn't give him your money, you don't have an opinion on it. Keep your nose out. As far as I understand it, he didn't reach the target, but asked the community what they wanted to do. The people, as far as I understand, said, go with the other option. And that's what he's done. And I believe he's bought some land. I believe he's working on it slowly. It's going to take time. But again, unless you gave him money, you don't have a right to complain. And it's that simple. And again, there's a few people that want to go around stirring crap on this. And look, I'm not defending him because he's a creator. I'm not defending him because of some thought that he's a friend, because he isn't. I've never spoke to Bot in person. We've had a few messages back and forth. The reality is this. It's between him and the people who supported the project. If they're not happy, then their beef is with him. Now, if I saw someone openly rip the community off, I'd be telling you about it. But I haven't. So that's it. End of. It's getting ridiculous. And there's one or two people who seem to want to have an opinion on something that is frankly none of their business. And that's the fact. No, Drunk Hamps is not involved. And that's it. Unless you're freaking involved, it's none of your business. Keep your nose out. Am I intrigued? Yeah, I'm intrigued what happened. We were talking about this on my Discord. Do I think it was a recipe for a lot of pain and suffering? Yes. I'm going to be honest. And I don't mean that against Bot Grinder. I think going to the community and asking for money for something specific is always going to be very problematic. And look, it's not the first, Bot's not the first, I think. And I completely understand why he did it. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I think it is definitely a complex situation. You know, we saw the guys who bought the golf course, flight test, you know, community funded and stuff like that. And look, it can work. It is also complicated, and it is at times, it's gonna come with some pain. And you never know, I might be sitting here in a year's time asking you guys for support on something. I ask you for support via my Patreon all of the time. You have the right, you know, there are people who pay on my Patreon who could sit back and go, you know what, he's not making enough content for me, or he's not doing this, or he's not talking about the stuff I want to hear him talking about. Well, in many ways, it's tough crap. You give me support based on what you've seen in the past and a belief of what you're going to get from it in the future. But if that isn't quite the same, you know, if I stopped making FPV content tomorrow and started reviewing dancing shoes, you'd have every right to complain. But if I continue to do what I did, yet you decided that you didn't like it, then you have the right to cancel your support, but you don't really have the right to go back and say, hey, I shouldn't have given you that money, because that's not how it works. And it's the same with this. So again, my point is, the guy's done nothing wrong as far as I can tell. It's none of anyone's business but the people involved. If you gave money and you're happy, great. That's brilliant. If you gave money and you're unhappy, go back and listen to what you actually gave money for. Openly ask yourself, actually, have I been misled or treated unfairly here? And only if you really think you have, then go talk to the guy. But stop posting shit about it online if you're not involved. It's that simple. Armchair experts trying to have an opinion on business that is nothing to do with them. It's as simple as that. So that's my thoughts. Okay. Catching down on the chat a minute. That were a lot of words for has nothing to say about. Okay, so the next subject, cut down on the chat. Okay, we need to do a quick one on ToolKitRC. Now, they are a brand I've actually had stuff sent to me from. However, I am seeing more and more people posting problems with ToolKitRC products. Now, I'll be honest, they make some really nice looking chargers and products for FPV. But today, the reliability on this is just ridiculous. It's just, let me just, it's just out of control. It really is. And I've seen more and more people. In fact, on my Discord, I set up a page thread for charging issues and things like this. And the amount of issues that people have been posting is crazy. You know, one of the guys on my Discord this week, this is a brand new charger. I think it was like used a couple of hours. And it died on port 1. He heard a pop and it died on port 1 basically instantly. You can see here that he's got port 1 going in. Is showing no voltage. And he's just got it on the LiPo there just to confirm that the battery is correct. But yeah, it's just... Sorry, I'm trying to fix my live chat window that just broke. It's ridiculous how many people I am seeing having problems with ToolKitRC chargers. It just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. It's a standard LiPo. LiPo fires are no joke. Yeah, it's just sad, really. So, look, I hate saying it, but I can't really recommend a ToolKitRC product right now. Based on the amount of comments that I've seen from users, I think this is a really nice looking charger. Less than 5 minutes, yeah, Ben said. I've lost count of the amount of ToolKitRCs that have died. Yeah. It's just getting worse. And the sad thing is, like, I've got a few of these, the M8P. I had one that failed. I had one sent for review that blew up. And then I was sent another 2. And the 2 have been okay. Although one of them did drain a LiPo rather strangely. But look, they've got some nice chargers. You've got the M8D, which looks quite nice indeed. I like this pull-up screen. I like this UI, you know. First touchscreen charger. That all looks good. But they've got to sort this reliability shit out. We just can't keep having these problems. I have a few chargers from I've forgotten their name. It's not ADT. ASDT. I think it's ASDT. Is it ASDT or ADST? I can't remember which one. ISDT, sorry, not A. Couldn't think of the name. I have a couple of chargers from ISDT, and I'll be honest, they've been great. Not an issue. Not an issue at all. ISDT shop. So we've got desktop drones. Oh, where are they? Hobby. Here we go. So if we go under their hobby, they've got a lot of chargers. Hotter F6 is good, apparently. I've got the P30s. I've got a couple of the P30s. Or was it the Q8? I can't remember. Actually, no, I haven't. I've got the P10s. I've got 2 or 3 of the P10s because I prefer to have multiple chargers than I don't use balance boards or anything like that. I don't use balance boards anymore. They're just not worth the risk. I would rather buy multiple chargers than risk on a balance board. That's the truth. So yeah, I have, I think, 3 of them all on DC that I use. But they do make some really nice chargers for the hobby. Today I'm probably going to be saying, you know, stick with these. They do have their 6808 AC, which is quite a nice charger. The K4 looks very nice. Look at that. That is a very nice charger. So we've got mains, we've got DC. Wow, I like the look of that. Look, my God, look at the price on that. That's a very nice looking charger. Not seen this. So Dual XT60, very nice. Very nice indeed. I don't know what lipos have balance cables that long. Anyone know? Look at that. That's some balance cable there for you. That's a really nice charger. Also, someone has said the hotters. What did someone say? What was the model that people were talking about? The hotter F6. So that's that one there. 4 250 watt 15 amp 4 channels. Very nice. Let's get down here. Okay. That is a beast. So that's DC only input then, from the look of it. SkyRC, yeah. Q6AC is the charger you recommend. So that's a nice looking charger, isn't it? That is a real nice looking charger. Is that only 122 quid? Wow, I might get one of them in. That is a nice looking charger. So you got USB. I'm just going to sneeze. I actually like DC chargers because I use I don't really need AC. I use batteries. That is really quite nice. Have Hotter got a website? Why can I not see Hotter's website coming up? HotterRC. Have they not got a website? Hotter has no website. Wow. Really? Okay. That is a nice looking charger. I'll be honest. I might get myself one of them in. Wow, you can get it here for 89 quid. Oh, it's out of stock. That is a great looking charger for the money, isn't it? Let's be honest. Look at that. I'm going to try and get one of them in. I am going to try and get one of them in the UK to have a look at. RC models, whoever they are, have got Hobby RC. Hobby RC have got it. Oh no, they haven't. Okay, I'm gonna have to try and find one of them in the UK. Q6AC can run as 4 power outputs. Q6AC. Q6AC charger. Let's bring that up. It's a ToolKitRC. We're not buying ToolKitRC here. We're not doing ToolKitRC. That's the first thing that needs to be understood. Look at that. The F6 Plus as well. That's a beast. And that's the AC/DC version. So the F6 Plus is the AC/DC version. Wow. That is quite a nice looking bit of kit. Hotter hasn't even got a website for me to contact them to say, hey, could you send me one of your chargers? It's like, hey, any chance you can send me one of these for review? I quite like it. Can we have a look? So they don't even have a website. But who's going to use a 1,000-watt charger? Yeah. So the Hotter D6 is the same, but smaller, apparently. So is the D6 here? We've got the ASDT. We're just looking down. Chargers is such a minefield at the moment. I like the idea of a four at a time. I do like... Oh, top left. Ah, there, the D... That's a dual charger, though, isn't it? I like the idea of a quad. I do like the idea of a quad charger, if I'm honest. That really suits me down to the ground. I would probably get this, to be honest, because I've got the DC output. So I can do this without any problems. I can run this without any issues at all. So I'm probably going to get one of these in the UK. Dual F6-4. D6. So there's a D6 dual F4 apparently. D6 is just dual channels. So that I'd probably get the DC one. I'm going to order that in this week. Definitely going to get that in. I like the idea of a quad charger. No D models are dual, F models are quad. Makes sense. Makes sense. Very nice indeed. I bought the ToolKitRC P200 mini desktop power supply, which fell on its arse after 2 weeks. Yeah, mine worked very well for 6 months and then blew up as well. I actually took the review down of that. Hotter F6 is goated. Gangload of bats. That looks the beast. That super chats are always appreciated thing grinds me. Sorry, Cliff. It's the truth. It's there. Don't read it. Ah! Someone sent a link for Hotter. I see a lot of Chinese words. It's a spelling mistake. That's how you know I wrote it. You've got to have the spelling mistakes to know it's me. How would you know it's me if it didn't have the spelling mistakes? Anyone who's on my Discord knows that's the truth. Come on. Those of you who are here, you can say it. There he is. That's how you know this is a legitimate live stream. There we go. We've got their website. Woohoo! Oh, my life. That's a beast. So, let's just have a quick look before we move on and talk about the Mavic. No. The Mini 3. No. The Avata 2 and DJI. Fucking hell. Couldn't even get my words out then. Cool. Do you know what? I still have a Turnigy. This. I have this from Turnigy. I still... Does anyone remember that this charger was sold under Turnigy brand? Does anyone remember that? Does anyone remember? I have this charger. I have the Turnigy version of this charger. What's it called? Isn't it? 1 second. I still use it. Reactor. It's the Reactor. The Reactor. Yes. Okay. I have 2 from Hobby King. It was called, that's it, the Reactor. Yeah, it's a great charger. Great charger. It's funny that they haven't changed it. Don't worry, Cliff. I was only poking. I still have some... I still have some of the yellow packs. For those who remember them. It's a great charger. Okay, so charging wise, yeah, look, they got the F6 Plus. I'm gonna. Who makes that tall vertical charger? I can't remember. I thought Hotter made the vertical one. There's one that has like a screen on the front on an angle. Who makes that? I can't remember. Could be Thunder Power. There's a, yeah, like this. Similar to this, but it's not that one. There's one out there which I've seen which was very popular. The Reactor, in hindsight, not a great name. Venom. I don't recall it being Venom. Isn't ToolKitRC and Radio Master the same entity? Not as far as I'm aware. Right. My understanding is some of the reps work for both. But not the same company. Ah, SkyRC T1000. Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. There it is. Yes, SkyRC. That's the one I've seen. Anyone got experience of this? I've not seen too many comments on this. Yes. But again, this is still only a dual charger. Okay, can we not have the ad on the front? It's got an ARM M4. Yes. Okay. Can I? Jesus, who wrote this? DJI? It's still only a dual charger, though, isn't it? Oh, my God. This web page is horrific. Okay, so. Oh, look at that. Battery discharger. Ooh. Oof. I like that. I like that. They paid the web developer too much. Definitely paid the web developer too much. Oof, look at that. That is way too much marketing. This is just way too much marketing. Look. Come on. Get to the bottom. So how much is the T1000? £178 in the UK. That's an expensive charger. That is... I'll be honest. That's a lot of money for that. Scroll jacking, yeah. That is a lot of money for that dual charger. I'll be honest. I think it's very nice. But I think I like this idea of quad. I'd want two of them if I was... Fix the damage spelling or I'll accuse you of being a shill. I have to do it after the stream now, Cliff. How about tearing down chargers for review? Actually, look, I'm happy to do teardowns on chargers. It just... all of the ones I've generally done, I have. Get an iCharger and never look back. I'm just going to turn the aircon back off. It's got a bit cold in you now. The problem with chargers is it's a lot of them are quite hard to take apart. What we found with a lot of them is this sort of destructive teardowns. But look, I'm happy. Look, I will tear apart any charger we buy. I'm going to order in that quad. I like the look of that. I'm going to order that in and review that this week. I thought that was a gaming PC, but after the web page, I'm not so sure. Yeah, I'm running a 3080, and that couldn't handle that. It's weird. Weird. Right. Now, if you've got any questions, put them into the chat. I just want to say two things. If you don't know and you're new here, I do have a Discord. Please consider joining it. If you'd like to support us, please consider checking out my Patreon. I want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreons. We would not be able to do this without your support. If you don't know, I have a website called FPV Wiki. Okay, this is up, this is here. It's not glossy, you're not going to see any scrolling things, but this is where I put down all of the images and teardowns from the stuff I take apart on the channel. I've got a lot of work I need to do on this, I just haven't had time. But what is up here now, for those who don't know, is the teardown stuff of the DJI Goggles 3. So all of the internal images, the teardown video, the comparison, the hacks and everything is on here for the Goggles 3 as well. So if you want to see there, some images at the bottom there from the teardown as well. That is all there for you. We also now have the teardown of the FPV Remote 3 on there as well. I just need to do the teardown of the Avata 2. I just haven't had time to do the images for that yet. But here is the internal images of the FPV Remote 3 as well. So that's there if you want to. Teardown video, I need to add the link to that because that's live on the channel now as well. But yeah, if you don't know, there's also useful links here to the likes of Express LRS, also donation links to Express LRS, Betaflight, FPV WTF, as well as Betaflight PayPal. There's also links to my Discord, my Patreon, and a web page full of other YouTube channels too. And if you click more, you got the links that goes down to all of the FPV channels I know about. I put links to them there as well. It's actually a nice single place to find links to a lot of the main FPV channels and drone channels that are out there today. I put a huge set together, and some brand associated channels down there at the bottom too. So if you're interested in seeing that, Super Deluxe, you there somewhere, Super Deluxe. I'm sure yours was there. Am I blind? It's not actually Bluetooth. It's a Bluetooth chipset. It's a custom RF protocol, but yes, the remote talks to the goggles. I promised you biscuits too. But yeah, so the wiki is there with lots of stuff, and I got loads to put up here. Now, what is interesting, you'll see this DJI FPV latency testing is my original video, and all of my latency testing charts are here for those who haven't seen it. These will be getting a bit of an update. Oh yeah, I was looking at this the other day, and all the images for the HDZero goggle PCB was broken. Let's just check that out. No one's told me, but that doesn't mean it isn't. They should be there. They're all showing. The larger images. Seem to be working. Okay, wow, we're saying the file can't be found for you. Can someone else check? It's working on a thing window for me as well. It's working on a thing window. Let me just open up Edge. It's even working in Edge for me as well. So they should all be working. But anyway, I will be uploading the DJI FPV latency testing in due course because I need to add the Avata 2. Now, there's a bit to talk about here. Now, do you know, here is a secret, and it's not a secret, but here is something that almost every review of the Avata 2 is glossed over, and this is only really talking about the Avata 2 compared to O3, and this actually also stands for the Avata 1 and O3 as well, is that in 4K, you can't get the lowest latency modes. So the Avata 2 is limited to 30 and 50 and 60 frames a second in 4K. And you cannot have low latency mode live feed in those frame rates. The only frame rate on the Avata 1 and the Avata 2 that is low latency is 100 frames a second. Every other frame rate is high latency mode. And when I say high latency mode, it will depend on the mode. The 30 frames a second modes are frankly horrific. Okay, I'm going to tell you that now. However, the lowest latency mode on the Avata is only modes which is... let me just open this up to show you. Now, this isn't the full image, and I'm going to give you guys a bit of a sneak peek, because this isn't everything. But this is the latency modes on O4 versus O3 in 4K. You're going to have to wait for the full video for the rest of it. But note, in 4K, the lowest latency mode to full frame is 57 milliseconds. So there is still a big difference in the performance of the Avata 2 compared to the O3 ear unit, because remember, the O3 ear unit allows 100 and 120 frames a second modes in 4K. The Avata 1 and the Avata 2 does not. So there is no way on the Avata 2 to fly in low latency mode in 4K, period. You just cannot fly in the low latency mode, period. Now, the lowest latency mode on the Avata 2 and the Avata 1 is any 100 frames a second mode. So 2.7K 100, 1080p 100. They are the two low latency modes. But one little secret I'm going to give you here, and I'm not going to share the charts yet because I need something for the video. But the one little secret is I am seeing close to 0 improvement in latency on the Avata 2 compared to the Avata 103. Whereas the website is saying a lower specification for the latency. So the website is now saying 26 milliseconds. I'm seeing no change other than run-to-run variance. In fact, the truth of the matter is the latency on the Avata 2 is 2 milliseconds higher than the latency that I was getting on the Avata 1 and 03. But I will class that as run-to-run variance. That 2 seconds is milliseconds, not seconds. That 2 milliseconds is close enough to be run-to-run variance. There is not enough real change between it for me to, in my opinion, it's the same. What it still isn't is any other, sorry, what it isn't is any near the Vista ear unit on a set of V2 goggles. They are dramatically lower. You know, you're talking 4 to 6 milliseconds lower. So that is worth taking into account. All this noise around the Avata 2 having lower latency, it just doesn't. It just doesn't have lower latency. It's the same for me. Now, this is something that is going to be coming in a video. And I'll be talking about this as a whole. But you do get a lot of people with confusion on this. You know. Just catching down on the chat. That's high latency coming from a HDZero exclusive user. Yeah, look, it is. But I'm still not convinced it's crazy. Maybe only video transmission latency could get reduced and its full potential could be opened when using a different RC link. No. Look, the video system latency is... DJI has a bigger pipeline now, and that bigger pipeline adds latency. That is the reality here is DJI's pipeline now is 2 chips. They're having to sub-process the video image in the Eagle 3T, just like they do on 03, and that adds latency. There's just no getting away from the fact that the bigger the pipeline, the higher the latency. And this is why Avatar is able to get the latency a little bit lower, but Avatar is not as low as, say, the Vista. Which goggles have the better image in the goggles, Walksnail or DJI? DJI, categorically, hands down. 03 and 04 is still better looking than Avatar HD. Every day of the week. But there are people who will claim that Avatar looks better. And what I think you've got to take into account is if you're an FPV user, Avatar may look more like the image you're used to. Because remember, Avatar HD is based on cameras, same as CCTV sensors and stuff like that. Low light on 04 is dramatically better than 03. Hands down better. Much bigger sensor. 04 is... The 04 on the Avata 2 is just better in every way. But don't assume we're going to get that in an ear unit because That size camera brings complications. And there is no guarantee that DJI will bring that camera to a standalone ear unit. There's just no guarantee they will. It's a big, big thing. Is 04 better than Moonlight? No, because Moonlight is a night sensor. You've got to take into account Moonlight is using a CCTV-based dual sensor. The sensor is designed to be used in low light. Something to understand fundamentally is, okay, so the image sensors that DJI use in all of their products are designed for video, filming. Cameras, smartphones, handheld filming devices. Okay? They're all designed for that world. Generally, the image sensors used in FPV cameras, so HDZero, Avatar HD, Analog FPV, they're all designed for CCTV. They're generally designed for this night dark scenario. They're not the greatest at image quality, but they give you better low light. So you have a balance here to have. So the Moonlight is using a starlight sensor, which are very much designed for CCTV day-night applications. It's noticeable if you're used to one and switch to the other for short periods. Yeah. Time for the beach and a walk with my daughter. Good evening, Canadian channel. Take it easy. Yeah. The latency is definitely more apparent when you're switching systems. There's no question about that. You're going to feel it if you switch from HDZero to DJI. That's for sure. You know, what you will do is adapt. If you fly DJI all the time, you will just get used to it. I do not buy the fact that 50 milliseconds is unflyable. I think that is largely a BS term. And anyone who goes, oh, I fly HDZero, I try DJI, I can't fly it, that is not the same. You are changing from one to another. You're going to find the latency. Stay on one system, and the way it is, you will be fine. You will adapt. There's no question. Now, does that mean 50 milliseconds is going to make you the fastest racer on the field? No, of course it's not. But you will adapt. What people seem to forget is this. Yes, analog can be 1 to 3 milliseconds, but that's with the best cameras. Most analog cameras are still 18 to 22 milliseconds. There are many analog cameras that were horrific in the 30 to 50 milliseconds range, and you never knew. Most people never knew. I went for a go with the Avatar 2 on 30 frames a second. It is weird. Yeah, it is. That's not just latency, though. That's frame pacing. What I will say is this. 03 and 04 in 30 frames a second mode has not only high latency, but horrible frame pacing behavior. It is all over the place. There are times with the frame, the first pixel comes in at sort of 40 milliseconds, and it then takes 30 milliseconds for that frame to finish, or 36 milliseconds for that frame to finish. And there are times where that first pixel comes in at like 60, 65 milliseconds and drops it in by 80. The frame pacing in the 30 frames a second mode is all over the place. And I think it's to do with the way they drive the link. I'm still not 100% sure why, but it is horrible. And that is why anyone who flies 03 and 04 on 30 frames a second finds it all over the place. It's not just the latency. What you don't have is a consistent delivery of frames. The frame pacing is, you know, all over the place. And that's the problem. Yeah, you know, they should have added the ability to record on board with a different setting than what's in the goggles. Sorry, Grim, it's just not possible. You have to remember, it's not about the recording, it's about the sensor. So when you change the settings on DJI, on any system, from 100 frames to 60 frames, that sensor has to change its readout rate. You can do it differently, but you have to bin frames. So, for instance, you could, in theory, say, hey, run the sensor at 100 frames a second at all times. But for the recording, only record 50 and bin every other frame. But you're going to have a not as smooth image. There is a big difference between, say 50 frames a second. There is a big difference between a sensor reading at 50 frames a second, so the pace of the readout is slowed from top to bottom to match that 50 frames a second. So on a camera, we would call this the shutter. The shutter would open and close at a different rate. What you get if you read the sensor out at a higher frame rate and then dump a frame is you get a very fast image capture, boom, boom. Then you got to pause and then boom, boom. The things that change in that pause give you an unsmooth image because you're going from a step from here to here. When you slow the readout of the sensor, your sensor is starting to read here and finishes over here. And then you have a natural blurriness, you have a natural blurring in the readout because it's over twice the amount of time. And that's the issue. And that's the problem. So there is a fundamental issue on every FPV system that the only way to get good smooth footage is to match the live feed to the camera rate. And when there's an onboard DVR, you're going to be limited. And this is why O3 can never replace a GoPro. The compression between the frames, so if you remove... Yes, look, Louis, I'm keeping it simple. I'm not even going into B frames and P frames, okay? That's a whole different problem in itself. I'm trying to keep this as simple as I can. Because once you get into the GOP structure, it all tends to shit even more. But I'm trying not to go down the rabbit hole too far. The very basic fundamentals, as if you were taking 30 frames at a time, or 60 frames at a time, or 100 frames at a time, if you take one out, you're going to have a much bigger step change between the frames, which is going to look thin. If you then take the GOP structure into account, you don't actually have frame and frame, because what the GOP structure does is you have B frames and P frames, and of, say, the 100 frames, there may only be 30 actual frames in there, and then you've got P frames that are made up of those standard frames, and then you've got intermediate B frames. It gets a whole mess that let's not go down that rabbit hole. And it'll look even worse. But the basics are you have to run the sensor at the same speed as the live feed. See, what you could do, Louis, is you could bin before the compression. You could bin before the compression, but it's still going to look horrible. What could help this is AI. But that's a whole other story. AI frame generation. That could actually solve this problem. I'll take a warranty as well. Right. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. Now is the time to answer them. Now is the time to ask them. Is my tea cold? Yes. I'm just going to grab my squash. A Vata 2 thermal camera could be interesting. Vata 2 Enterprise. That's what that would be called. If you've got any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. Just, I'm trying to buy an Android tablet or an iPad. I'm trying to buy a new tablet, and I'll be honest, guys. Man, I'm stuck. I'm leaning on an iPad Pro, but I'm really fed up of it not running OS X, and I don't want a tablet. Look, I'm an Apple guy, okay? Just tuned in. When Tango 3 or Pocket with metal gimbals? I have no idea. I have been looking at the Surface, but man, they're expensive. The Surface 9 Pro. The iPad Pro I was probably... I'm not buying one for 4,000, Lewis. I would love an iPad Pro, but I want OS X. What I don't want is to be hemmed in by apps. But I can't have OS X. I am looking at a Samsung Galaxy Tab S9. The FE is quite good value, but the full 9 looks very, very nice. And I am leaning quite a lot on that, but I get the impression that they are still quite underpowered. The thing is this, Chris. The M1 iPad Pro is so nice. I'm looking at an M2, not an M4. I'm not going for the brand new one. I go last gen. If I get one, I go last gen. I'm not... iPad OS is just not enough for what I want. I don't want to be hemmed in on apps. And here's a classic example, right? I cannot, on an iPad or an iPhone, create a live stream. Do you know why? I cannot edit and create a live stream properly. Because when you in Safari go to YouTube, it forces you to open the YouTube Studio app, which only has a small amount of functionality. I don't want a laptop. I got a MacBook Pro. I've got a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I want an iPad. I want a tablet that if I need to, I can do... I'm not hemmed in by apps. So on Apple... So here's the big thing. Apple insists every browser on iPad, on iOS, uses WebKit, which means you have no full control over it. Even Chrome is using WebKit. I can't even control a live stream. I can't even start a live stream on there because it forces you into the app and you can only then do what YouTube do. What I want is a tablet that I can have the full desktop experience. Now, I have been looking at the S9, which does have DeX, which looks really interesting. I thought Chrome has a desktop mode. It does, but it still overrides you and opens the YouTube Studio app because Apple have this, oh, there's an app for this that is better than this experience. You need to go and use that. Now, you can force your way around it with a lot of effing around, and I don't want that. I just don't want that. I really wish Apple would make the AirPad Pro. Come on. Give Modbook, is it? That's interesting. Let's have an iPad Pro running. I'd love it to be dual boot, if I'm honest. An iPad Pro that dual booted. You could dual boot it into OS X, or you could dual boot it. You can have OS X on your iPad if you use an external monitor, lol. Yeah, use it as an external monitor. You can turn off universal links in Google Mail captive browser. What is Google Mail captive browser? Is that on iOS? I have a Surface Pro 4 and I use it every day. I have been looking at the Surface, the new Surface 9. I am close, but the battery life isn't great. I still have a Surface Pro 4. I use it every day on the full Windows system. The only tablet I've had that didn't end up for media consumption after a few months. Parallels, you can run Windows and OS X. Yeah, not in frickin' iPad, though, can you? Not on... Question is budget. Around under 1K, go Samsung. Yeah, I don't want to spend 1,500 quid on a frickin' M1 no Windows. No, exactly. I don't want to spend 1,500 quid on a frickin' tablet. Look, if Apple made an iPad Pro tomorrow that you could run either, dual boot Mac OS, iPad OS, I'd be done. That's me. Game over. Happy days. I love it. But they don't. iPad... And look, don't get me wrong. The new multitasking in iPad OS does look nice. I'll be honest. It does look good. I'm that close to an iPad Pro. But... S9 Ultra. Well, I wouldn't go Ultra. Ultra's too big. I was looking at the S9 Plus, I think it is. With 256 12 gig, because I think you get 256 12 gig on that. The Ultra is the big tablet. I wouldn't want to go Ultra. Can I trim Crossfire antennas to work on 2.4? I wouldn't. You could. Get the iPad and try it if you have 2 weeks to return it. Do you have 2 weeks to return with Apple? Yeah, I know. WWDC's in a month. I know, Cappy. Kaya P. Look, I love my MacBook Pro, but I don't want to carry my MacBook Pro with me all of the time. I just don't. iPads are... Yes, I know. There was a video this week of someone repairing one. Did anyone see it? They just refurbed them. S9 with 356. S9 Plus with 356. Bring back the rotary phone, 256. Sorry, yeah. Look, I am leaning on... My daughter gave up her iPad for a MacBook Air M2. Yeah, I know. The Air... Look, Apple's hardware is very good. I'm an Apple guy. They don't charge that much for their hardware. If people think Apple is expensive, start looking at proper PC stuff. The problem is, again, people compare it to low end. My MacBooks, I have 3 MacBooks. They are phenomenal. I've always had MacBooks. Don't get me wrong, my 15-inch has the shitty USB-C ports that play up. I love the Apple gear. Their hardware is the best. What frustrates me is, and this is the bit that really winds me up right now, right? Microsoft have the OS, right? Microsoft have the OS, but they don't have the Windows side of support in x86 for proper low-power tablet. Intel and AMD just haven't got their shit together enough. I'm not saying load it up and it's robbery. Yeah, I'm not denying that. They the Wintel side has not caught up on the processor. So we have the OS, but we don't have the processors. Apple have the bloody OS, They have the bloody processors, but they won't put the two together. Just make an iPad Pro that runs OS X with a touch interface over the top. Please, please do it. If I want to plug something into it, I can. I don't want to be restricted from running software Linux does it better first. I don't want to ever be accused of adding anything useful here. Get a dev account. MacBook Air with folding screen. Look, they need to make an AirPad Plus. AirPad Pro. Just AirPad Pro. It might kill the MacBook Air line. Yeah, but then it kills the Air line and it replaces it. I don't get why you would be worried about killing the Air line if it replaces it. That's a good thing. If it kills it, then so be it. If it runs OS X, it cuts out the Apple Store. Yeah, but it does on OS X anyway. Look, there is no arguments that really add up because they still allow you to install on OS X. It doesn't matter. They still do all these stuff. I don't care if they charge me $2,000 for it. I'd pay it. To have that, I would pay it. The crazy thing is, they could do this as an AirPad Pro, charge $1,800 for it, charge a premium for it. The people who need it have it. The people who don't won't. I'll pay because I want that product. That product would be perfect for me. And the frustration I have is close to nothing else comes close. The real one I had faith in, I was like, please, was the Surface Pro. But it's just not there today. It's just not there. It's just not there. It's like, come on, give it to me. I think the realistic has been the first tablet to fit in a Meloline envelope doesn't have the same ring to it. They could keep the MacBook Air the sub $1,000 price it is today and release the AirPad Pro for $1,500. You want the best of both? We'll give it to you, but you're going to pay. I'm okay with that. Look, I don't mind being nailed. You know, they don't need to kill the Air. They can just price it out of that world. Now, there is hints that there is rumors once again. Developer. I'd be okay if they put a 5G radio. Yeah, exactly, Lewis. It's just so annoying, isn't it, that you can't buy a MacBook with a 5G radio. Look, there is rumors again at the developer conference that there could be a combined OS, but these rumors keep coming up every year. I don't know. I don't know. I just wish they would. My MacBook Air 1523 M2 is a great iNav ground station. Super fast, thin, lightweight. Yeah. Yeah, no, look, I've got my 15-inch MacBook Pro, which is a 2015 model. That's the worst MacBook I've ever had, just because it's got loose USB-C ports. But honestly, I am a big fan of Apple laptops. I do like them. I do like them. I can see me landing with the Surface, but I'll be honest, I think the Surface Pro is a little big for me as well. I wanted something a bit smaller. My only complaint with the Surface is it's a bit big. I don't know if I want a 13-inch tablet. I need to try it. I need to go try one. I think the Surface Pro is close to being what I'd love. They really went down in quality at the end of the Intel era. Yeah, my 15 is like that end of the era. The crap keyboard, the USB port. Don't Surface Pro crash sometimes like a Windows PC. Very likely, because it is basically a Windows PC. I have the last MacBook Pro with an NVIDIA graphics card. They had some problems with them, Louis, as well. But yeah, that's a hell of a machine. Surface Pro is definitely going to behave like a PC and probably crash. With a dev account, you can run Linux on an iPad, but it's a virtualization hog. Okay. So can you do... So wait there. You can... Chris, tell me more before we finish this stream. So you can virtualize a full Linux install on an iPad. Yeah, it's not from when I'm home. It's when I'm away. Okay, so you can... So, and that gives you a full Linux use. So if I... Linux in a VM in an iOS... Linux VM in an iOS app. Are you talking about the £100 developer account? £89 a year, yeah. Okay, that's intriguing. Because that almost solves my problems. Because then I can just boot up into Linux, run Chrome, and do what I want to do. My only frustration is as well, still, is I want to be able to run non-fucking iPad apps. Just give me OS X on a fucking iPad Pro. It's when I'm not home is the problem. This is... I do a lot of traveling. So this is not about... Like, if I'm home, I'll power my PC up. It's not about when I'm home. It's about when I'm not. It's a shame you can't run OS X in a dev window. You can run Linux, but you can't run OS X. Incredible. You can run Linux, but not OS X. That's funny. What would be amazing... This... Look, here's an option, Apple. You'll never look back. I got a MacBook Pro for that. I got a 13-inch MacBook Pro. Actually, 14-inch. Whichever one it is. 14. So I've got that for that. I don't need an Air. I just need a tablet. I want a tablet that I can do... a little bit more on than what Apple iOS lets me. Okay, that is incredibly interesting. Right, we're going to end this one there. I want to say a huge thank you. I want to doodle with the fingers. Lenovo Legion Go. I did look. I'm not a big fan of Lenovo gear. I tell you, I did look at. Dell used to do one, and it's vanished. Anyone knows what happened to the Dell? One Raspberry Pi to rule them all. Cliff, you are absolutely correct. Pseudo sandwich. We need a dongle for an iPad Pro that allows you to run Windows. That would be cool. I was away for 2 months and survived with the Samsung Galaxy Tab. That is interesting, Louis. Do you know what? I am leaning on the Android tablet, but how underpowered it is worrying me. It is worrying me how underpowered it is. But anyway. Right, we're going to end this one there. Thank you for spending some time with me tonight. We will be back again, same time, same place next week. Look after yourself, and I will speak to you guys soon. I want to say a big thank you to Cliff Fields for the super chat, as well as Duncan for joining the channel memberships. If you don't know, we do have channel memberships. Don't forget Patreon. Stay safe. I'll see you later.